How to write a believable villain. Character development is an important step in creative writing. Creating a believable villain is important in creating conflict within the story. You must develop a villain who will adequately challenge your protagonist. Often, writers create villains whom readers love to hate, and sometimes writers even invert the traditional narrative, so that the villain is the main character, whose point of view is shared by the reader. A believable villain is distinct from other characters, but must be understandable from the reader's perspective. We see 6 tips about how to write a believable villain. First tip. Revisit texts you have read and make a list of fictional villains that you find compelling and believable. You may also choose to include villains from film, television, or history. 2. Analyze your list of villains to find commonalities and to zero in on specific traits that you would like your villain to have. Be sure to include both physical and non-physical traits, adding physical details, mannerisms, and idiosyncrasies that enhance the interior emotional and mental processes of your villain will add to the believability of the character. Outward physical traits are often reflective of a character's inner state. For example, if you want to convey the inner ugliness of a villain, try giving that character physical deformities such as scars or warts. 3. Decide whether your villain will be the main character or the secondary character. The main character is the one whose point of view will be given to the reader. 4. Brainstorm the main conflict in which your villain and your hero will be engaged. List the ideas that your villain must espouse in order to be in conflict with your hero, and the actions he will take in that conflict. Flesh out your villain's motives. Ask yourself why the villain thinks, feels, and acts the way he does. Fleshing out your villain's motives may also involve developing his backstory. The backstory can detail events that occurred preceding the opening events of your text and impact the way a character behaves. For example, your villain's motive for being in conflict with a hero might be that the villain's father and the hero's father were also enemies decades earlier. You can refer to this backstory at various points in your text in order to allow the reader glimpses into the mind of your villain. We continue with the topic how to write a believable villain. Tip 5. Give your villain a distinctive voice within the dialogue that sets her apart from other characters. This may be achieved by incorporating one or more of the traits you identified from your initial list of inspirational villains. Perfect speech is not realistic, so try adding a speech impediment, extreme articulateness, or wordiness to your villain's dialogue. This will make your villain's voice distinctive and can reveal additional information about her intelligence and physical state. 6. Allow the reader to see into the mind of your villain at times, even if your villain is not the main character of your story. Psychological depth will add to the believability of your villain. This may involve incorporating bits of your villain's backstory into the narrative. Try having your villain recall a memory or make a revealing comment to another character. Alternatively, you may choose to use flashback to show your reader a scene from your villain's backstory that may reveal his motives to the reader. Tips and warnings. One component of good writing is good reading. Be sure to read and study texts that feature compelling and believable villains to discover the practices of other writers with regard to characterization and character development. And now, with all this information, would you be able to create your own villain?